Hello and welcome to the ARCHLine webinar using external files in your CAD software. My name is Zoltán Tóth and today I'm joined by my colleague Illés Pap, who's our in-house architect. During the next 45 minutes we are going to show you how you can use files in our software. What we are going to show are specific to our solution, but we are going to talk about some underlying elements on how to process data, what you receive, how to process that in your day-to-day work. So what happens regarding our application is that probably you are familiar with this is an architectural software with interior features as well. What that means is that you can use it for all kinds of projects ranging from serving as builds, remodeling, refurbishment.
Yeah,
now,
that's a lot of things, yeah.
Yes, and ever so often you find yourself that you could start the work from scratch, or you could utilize data what you already have, or maybe a colleague of yours has, or maybe your client or co-designers have that data. But it's always a question of how you can use that data and what kind of format you need that data to be in. Yeah. Because one extreme is that when you, for instance, have data like that, paper-based floor plans, and there's always a question on how to digitalize that. But with the rise of BIM softwares out there, collaboration is becoming better all the time. So sometimes you have data files, but you need to know how to import that. So what we are going to devote this session is that we are going to talk about all the import facilities that our application has. We are going to talk about most of them what you could use during your day-to-day work. There are others as well, but now we are going to look at a couple of key elements. First, we are going to talk about the CAD file imports. That's the most frequently used, I think.
Yeah. When you would like to start out with something that was created by another software, yes, or was scanned like just you described, yeah, that's definitely the way you start, yeah.
There's another issue about how to process non-CAD data. We mean PDF and images by that. For instance, when you have a scan of a floor plan, such as the one that I just showed you, you need to know how to use that data. After that, we are going to talk about how to import 3D files and 3D objects, which is, again, a hot topic. And we also talk about what we call seamless import, because our software does have connection to external sources from which you can pull in data. We are going to show that in detail. Also, we are going to talk a little bit about our BIM abilities and how to pull in BIM data. Now, one thing what I have to remind you of is that you can comment during the whole duration of this webinar, so make sure you use the comment section to ask questions, what we are going to answer in the end. And also this session is being recorded, which we are going to keep online available, so in case if you sign up to the webinar but missed it, you can still watch it as an archive. Now, I'm going to give the word over to Illés, who is going to start the discussion about the CAD file imports, what we have available. So Illés, over to you.
Yeah, can we just go back to a little bit to the previous image, just to talk about these features a little bit. Now, what we are talking about is those arrows pointing towards ARCHLine. That's the import. Those are the most common file formats that we support as imported input for whatever you would like to do. Today we talk about this, and at first I would like to show you how you can work with CAD files, because I think that's the most common thing how you will likely start your work. Now, what we see here, now this is already a process drawing, but here I think I will just simply open a new empty drawing, and from now on I will show you how you can import DWG drawings, for example, or DXF drawings, because in this manner it's quite the same thing from the point of view of ARCHLine.
Can you tell us a couple of words about DWG and DXF? What kind of softwares are accessing that?
Well, I think that's like English in the human languages. It's like what most of the, actually all the design software, all the architectural design software speaks. You will be able to obtain a DWG or a DXF file from another architect or another plumbing designer, electrician, or someone. The point is that using that data, you can import 2D drawings, and you can also, in the meantime, I'm just creating import sample drawing. And you can import that drawing into your project, and you can process it the way you want. Some of these files could have 3D in them, But I think I will be able to show you, or at least mention, another format which is much better when you would like to import complete buildings, if we will get to that point. So it's worth note that if you import DWG files and DXF files, you will likely import documentation, drawings, sections, floor plans, and things like that, just as I will do now. If you go to the File menu and you find the Import, you will find a listed file types that you can import into ARCHLine, and because of its popularity, DWG is at the top. And if you would like to import anything, like let's just go to the, I think there is a file here, it's called the one of the floor plans that I'm about to load. I think this will do. If you open a file like that, you will always see this welcome dialog. What does this tell to you? If you import something from a DWG file, there are units in them. Like there is a line which is 1,000 long. 1,000, we don't know
1,000
what.
units or
1,000 units. So you can decide how you interpret this value in ARCHLine. If you choose to interpret it like with a multiplier, like I don't know, I use 10 as a multiplier, and then I use OK, then the software will import that data. It reads the important information, and you will find that the data loaded will be scaled to something which you should check once it's imported. Now, once the file is imported, you can measure the data, and you can check whether the file, I mean this line or wall or whatever the content is, long enough to be able to digest that. Let's just see. I think I have some technical issue here, so I'm loading the file again. And I think in the meantime, can you talk about the other file formats that we will discuss today? Just give me a second. And I'm loading that.
Regarding the non-CAD, I think that's the second most significant file format that most of our clients are using, because even though CAD is on the rise everywhere, especially in interior design, for instance, more often than not, clients get their data in PDFs, especially if that's an older scan of an older building, maybe.
Yeah.
So turning this into a file you can work with is not an easy job, because sometimes these scans are low quality. So if the original drawings are lost, then you have to work with what you have. But still, there are abilities to turn these PDF documents, scan documents, into something you can work with, a 3D model, for instance. Same applies for images, actually. Whenever you import them, you have to work with what you have, but there are many tools which can help you to turn that into something more usable. Regarding the 3D elements, now that's something what I don't think it is as regularly used as it should be, because there are many scenarios when you get data in 3D, but I don't hear that people use that quite often, even though they should.
I see.
But I think regarding the last topic, what we are going to talk about today is making this whole 3D turning it into a much better perspective when it comes to using 3D elements, and that's the IFC. That's something that we already talked about. We are not going to cover that in full.
I think we will show that video at the end.
Yes, we are not going to cover that in full. So those of you who are looking for BIM-related data and ideas and some case studies, you might have to check back on older webinars what we did. We are just going to briefly mention that. Today's topic is not really BIM-related, but still, that's one of the import formats that we can work with. Another very important thing is, which comes up more often than not, is how to handle terrain. But I think that's something that we are going to discuss later as well. Now, let's get back to DWG and the CAD files to see.
Thank you. Sorry for this interruption. Here I have loaded one of these DWG files I have prepared. So the point is that when you import a file like that, it's only 2D mostly. So if I select the content, you will see that there is a group, or there are a bunch of lines, text, annotation, dimensions, and things like that.
The last thing you told us that whenever you import it, you have to decide on the scale. So how do you know now if you're in scale?
Yeah, good to mention. Thank you very much. If you import it, then you should always check the length of things that you have imported. Yes. Now it's correct. I know that because I already used this file, and I know that this should be 9,400 millimeters. But if it's not, then you can either just simply undo the import and import it again and use a different scaling. And it's worth mentioning, I won't import it again. I'm just simply showing that very specific important value, which if you are using imperial units, if you are working with imperial units, what you should check. If you select this value, this here, this is the multiplier that you should use when you import
from inches
drawings which were created as in imperial units, I don't know, walls and anything else. Okay, so that's the value, that's the 25.4 multiplier. Otherwise, you just go with the regular import, and then you will have something like me here. And then you can process it. How to process a drawing like this? To be able to quickly draft the walls and doors and windows, ARCHLine.XP actually has dedicated tools like the Walls on DWG drawing tool here. If you click on that, the software only asks you to select a line close to its two endpoints, and then another parallel line, and this will define a wall. And from that point on, as you can see, let me just highlight that. And from that point on, let me just close these two empty drawings. Yes, I don't need those. Yeah. Well, actually, this is okay. So I have.
So you already have a 3D wall from the drawing what you imported.
Yeah. So now that I have that, I can just go here and go on with this tool and just select these parts. I try to make some error here to show you.
That's a good one.
Like for example here, I have accidentally created a shorter wall, which is not that much visible here, but if I click here, you can see that it's definitely shorter than it should be.
Yes.
So what happens if I process the walls and then later I realize that I should have created something different and I need to reconnect the walls and just create this here from here to here. Then all you need to do is either in 3D or in 2D, you just click on this L or T connection to connect those two items together, and then you will have something like that.
So it basically fillets together the walls.
Yes, definitely. So this is how you will go on. And the other two important tools are the doors and the windows. They are also supported. If you go here, you use the door by 2 points. This allows you to, now I think, process this here. This allows you to pick two existing points on the DWG, set up an opening direction. I have a different door type selected, but I can change that to something else. Yes. So if this is a single leaf door, but I have a double leaf in the original drawing, I just go there and try to find something similar in the libraries or exactly
that can be changed every time.
You can actually even create your own doors, but I think that's a topic of a different webinar later. Okay, so the same way you can use the window by 2 points. You just click here, and then you actually have that window. And of course, later you can change the sill height and all the other aspects of this drawing. And another important thing here is that when you import a DWG file, which I did not mention at the beginning, is that you go to the to these libraries, you will find that it is coming with a so-called layer group. This layer group groups the layers of this original DWG file into one single specific filter group, so you can easily find what was originally in the DWG file and simply turn them off if you would like to visualize them anymore. I think at this point on, I will go back to show you the full model.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you about the non-CAD import. So now this is a kind of idealistic scenario when you have the CAD files, but more often than not you don't have that. You have to work with something like that, as I mentioned in the beginning. So can you instead show us what happens if you have this thing scanned as a PDF and you somehow have to turn this into a 3D model?
I have prepared a few PDF files. Now there is a difference between two types of PDFs that you can have actually. One type is, I think, which will be here. It's like, this is a vectorial PDF. You can easily determine that this is vectorial because if you zoom in, you will always see straight and nice, neat lines. You won't see pixels.
Yes.
But if you have something that is scanned, this is likely coming from another CAD software printed out as a
but
PDF file.
It wasn't exported as DWG.
Unfortunately, that was not available
as a PDF.
So I will show you how to process this as well. But actually there is another important thing. If you have something that is only a scanned version like this, you will...
And that's more realistic actually.
Yeah, many times, yeah. So you see that it is pixelated. So it won't be as accurate as a DWG file or a vectorial file, but still you can work with it. You can import a PDF file as an image, and actually you can also import images. I will show you that as well. You can import images, scanned images, and use them as an underlay drawing. So I think I will start with a clean plate here, and I will just simply load that file. Again, we go here and select import, and there is like, I don't know, I will import a PDF as an image, or I strictly import an image itself, like a JPEG file. So I go here, files, and I think I have saved it here. Okay, open. And then when you place an image like this and you scale it, you won't be able to determine accurate when you place it on the drawing. You will just pick 2 points and you place it there. Yes, so you must be able to somehow calibrate this image to be able to work on top of that, because that's what you will do.
And what's the best way to do that?
Well, actually it's supported if you just right click on the image and you use the calibrate tool. This here, you should select the longest distance that you can find on this drawing, because that will reduce error. Okay. There will be some sort of error because simply this is not a vectorial drawing, and if I'm trying to find a point, you see I have an area where I can click on a specific point.
Close your eyes and shoot somewhere.
Yeah. So I just click here, and I think it was 9.4 meters. I'm working in millimeters, keep that in mind. And then I'm just zooming in, click here, and then now I have to tell that this was originally 9,400. And when I say enter, it's already calibrated. Now it's larger because when I placed it, it was smaller than expected. But from now on, I can actually work on top of that. So I can say, okay, I'm about to draw a single wall on top of that, and then, well, I need to change the reference line. I should have changed the wall thickness as well. And the point that if you draw on top of a scanned drawing, pixelated content, you should not click onto the corner point, simply because of the fact that I just described that it's not accurate. Yes. So if you know that this should be 9.4 meters or 9,400 millimeters, you should just type that and use that value, and then the software will create that thing here. Now this is 2.5, so it's 2,500 millimeters. So you just work on top of that. So instead of clicking, you should type the values.
That makes sense actually.
Because sooner or later, if it's a large drawing, you will see that there will be some differences between the scanned image and your accurate representation of the original scanned drawing, and this way you can actually avoid that inaccuracy. Okay, so this is how you can process the PDF, I mean the JPEG files, sorry. And you can also, somehow similar, you can also process PDF files. Just one reason I'm about to show that is that the initial step is a bit different. If you click on a PDF file, which was, I think this was
yes, that
something
was the
like that
one.
Yeah. So if I click there, then you will see something like this. You need to set up a resolution how the original content will be converted into an image file in ARCHLine. That's how it works. Usually, if someone asks me what's the best, well, it's a bit difficult to tell which setting you should go with, because the larger the file, the project will likely will be heavier. But if you would like to go like with the golden rule, I always suggest to use this third option,
150 dpi.
150 dpi, that will usually result in something good. And if you see the result is still blurry, you just undo that and import it again with a larger resolution.
That's right. So that's the extra step you have to take. Apart from that, it's the same concept. You import, you scale it, you check for the measurement to see if it's accurate, and then you redraw it.
Yeah, from that point on, it's like this. It's absolutely the same. And about the PDF import as a vector, this will be very similar to how you process a DWG drawing, except the one step that how to import that DWG drawing. Again, let's just clear the plate and let's just work on a plain white paper, and again go to File and Import. And there should be, I think this is PDF geometry, yeah. So this is where you select this file, it should be on this drive. This should be in here, PDF, and I think that was this here, or maybe this. Let's just open that and see. Now it's automatically loading. And the result, what we will have is actually a group of lines and texts and whatever was recognized in that file. And see, there was no scaling when I imported this here. But this not necessarily means that the scaling is correct, because now I think it's a common thing that could happen if now you start to process this drawing and you go there, walls and DWG drawing, you click on one end, close to the other end, and you try to set up the thickness, and you end with something like this.
Because there are too many nodes. Or it's not in scale.
It's not scaled. That's the reason. You import something, and if it's not, if you didn't check the scaling, you could end up in a situation like this. This is not a catastrophe. You can easily fix it. You just undo this step, and then you select this whole drawing that you have imported, and there is the scaling here. You can set up scale. You can set up the scaling origin, and you can even set up what the scaling value is, and it will be, I think it should be 100 now. I didn't check the values, but if I scale it up to 100, and then now I check this value here, I think maybe let's just go with this window width. We can easily tell that this is realistic.
Should be good, yes.
Yeah, so this is good. And now on, if I go with the same tool again, Wall on DWG drawing, the name of the tool is Wall on DWG drawing, but as you can see, it works on 2D drawings very well. Now you have a 2D drawing and a 3D wall as well. So this works on every 2D drawing.
So that's a better scenario when you can get a vector-based PDF drawing.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of our customers are asking us what happens if they receive 3D objects and 3D files. Now, what can we talk about? What can we tell about them?
Well, 3D files. Don't confuse 3D files with IFC, which we will mention later.
Yes.
Now, what I'm about to show is how you can import 3D files from 3ds files, OBJ files. I'll show you the list of import 3D files. If you go to the file and you go to import, here you can find all the available file formats that you can import. Now, the most common 3D file formats from here are the SketchUp files, the 3ds files, and the OBJ files. And there are others which I will mention later, but these are the most common. So if you are about to extend an existing drawing, like I'm loading this previous project because here I have prepared a good example, I think. Here I will fill up this terrace with content here. If I'm actually activating the 2D, I can import into 2D, or I can activate the 3D, I can import into 3D, but whatever, the software will actually load the content itself, so it will be represented in 2D and in 3D at the same time. So you only need to decide to find a good website from where you can download these objects from, and you just need to compare that list you have in ARCHLine with the file types that you can find online and find which one will work. But once you have those, I actually have a few selected. You just go and let's just find what sort of 3D files you can have. Let's just set the filter to 3ds. I have downloaded an external shade in a 3ds, which is a nice 3D shade file. If you click on open, this works the same. You just click on it, set up the size, and as you can see here, there is a model box size list. This can help you understanding what the final size of this object will be once you import it. This scaling option, which you found when you imported,
so you can modify before you import.
Yes.
That way you don't get into a situation where you just imported a huge object into your file and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Or if that happens, you can just go back and change the scale.
Yes. I think still that could happen because we are human.
Still happen.
But yes. So if you select any of these, the software will actually recalculate it, so you will find. I think the same thing we can also try to import in another format just to show you how similar it works. If I go to import again and I find the OBJ, now see, there is a difference here. If I'm about to open an OBJ file, which I would recommend in most of the cases when you have a 3ds file, if you have 3ds and OBJ, I think you should always go with the OBJ. That will have a better result in ARCHLine. But otherwise, the difference that you can see that most of the times OBJ files are not just single files, but they also come with folders of textures themselves. So it's a bit different from just a single file. So you don't forget, if you receive an OBJ, likely you should also receive the texture files. If you select the OBJ file, from that point on it's the same. You just you just see the preview, you can set up the scaling, and then you can just place it. And then select the point and then just click there. You can also rotate it. I have forgotten snapping it. Yeah, so it's just there.
So it just handles like any other object in the software.
And of course it will fall to the ground. Now it's on ground 0. That's why it's not aligned perfectly to this column. But you can, again, just as with any other objects in ARCHLine, you can just position it. You can either move it manually and just turn it off, so I can move it smoothly, and then turn this back on. This is the object snap actually, and then you can just set it up the way you want. And if you would like to import something smaller, that goes exactly the same. So you just go to another file format which is very popular, is the SketchUp file format.
Yes.
I'm about to load a file as a SketchUp file as well, so you just go here, SketchUp, don't forget the filter, and then you will see the SketchUp files. You click on open, and again it's the same. See here, this object, if I just blindly click on place, it will be just as large as my whole building, maybe larger. So again, here you can set up a scaling. You can make it even 10 times larger, or in this case I think smaller. And maybe even smaller is the best choice. So you just go with that.
That checks out.
Yeah, and then place. Yeah, if you already loaded it, which I obviously did here, then you can just simply decide to overwrite or keep the original, and then you can just again place it, rotate if you wish, and then fine tune. Like, because I just put it on the edge of this item, but I can then go to the 2D and just move it someplace here. Like, it's better there, I think.
We touched upon this topic before briefly, but what happens with terrain? Because sometimes you have files which could help you represent the terrain or the environment around the building. So, is there any way that we could bring it in as 3D data?
Yeah, there are two ways. Actually, one is if you obtain data from the Google Maps database. That's what we discussed earlier. We will show the link about that.
Yes, we already showed that.
And the other thing is that you could import a data file as a point cloud, a measured point cloud of a terrain, and turn into a real terrain in ARCHLine. For that, you will not go to File, Import, because that's a specific import. It's for terrains. So in that case, you go to Terrain, and there you will find the terrain create from file. That's the thing that you should use. It's an import, but it's at a different place.
Yes.
So you go and find that file. I think I have prepared a terrain file here. Let's just go with this one. It's a DXF file actually. I click on open. Well, there are several things that you can set up, and again, scaling could be very important here. Now, this is usually correct with the point cloud of a terrain, but you can again change it if it's not good. So if you click OK, see, now there's the terrain. When you import external data, this is a good example. If you import external data, it could fall into a totally different location of your project than your original drawing is.
Oh, yes.
This is what happened here.
So
you can see the 2D.
Yes, I just want to demonstrate it. Here's the drawing, what we did. Yeah. So here's the house, and here's the point cloud data on the terrain.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you just need to align them. You can decide either moving the building, which is most likely more difficult than just simply moving the terrain close to it. So I just click on the terrain, I just click on move, and I don't know, I just place it here. I think it will work. And the terrain still do not appear. Let's just go and refresh the 3D, because that's actually how you can rebuild the 3D. If something came into the model and you would like to visualize it, this is how you can visualize it. But what happens? Why it's not there? If you import a terrain, it's important to know that usually it is coming with elevations above the sea level.
Yes, or base height level.
Yeah, and if you did not set up in your project that elevation earlier, then you will end up in a situation like this. Now the terrain is floating above the building. Nothing to worry about, actually. You can easily fix that. You only need to fix the buildings. It's here in the management menu. Here you should set up this value here. And how do you know that? If you go to the terrain here, and you select any specific point that is around the building and likely represents the point which is the elevation of your building, then you can just click and modify the terrain node height, and this will actually represent the current height. You can, this way you can also change it, but this will also tell you the height. So I just simply copy that data and I will align my building's 0, which is the ground 0, to this point. And this is how it goes. You go here and just type the value or paste it here, and then OK, and then you need to refresh the 3D
again.
And then now it will disappear from here. And it's the reason to that, it's that it has gone to its proper place.
That's right. Maybe you have to adjust it, but
yeah, well, it's halfway in the.
Or you could create a plateau around it, but we are not going to show you that right now. But there are many ways to adjust this terrain what you just created.
Yes. I think there will be another
show on how to modify that. But that's the concept. So you can in fact turn this kind of point cloud data into terrain.
Yeah, and talking about the 3D items, I think there is one another thing that we should discuss is the seamless imports.
Yes.
Perhaps.
It's basically what we did so far is that we had external files what we pulled into the software.
Yeah.
But since we know that there are many file formats that have been used by many, we decided to integrate the access to these files from our software. And one example actually is the 3D warehouse, what I think we briefly touched upon, but now you can explain in full what it means.
Well, when I have actually imported that SketchUp file, that was also downloaded in a browser from 3D Warehouse, which was originally created by Google. It's a very large, free to access database of objects. Let me just zoom in here. I think I will actually select one of my views. This is the default exterior, interior. Well, I have just changed the elevation. Let me just fix that. You know, I have changed this, but my cameras didn't follow the change. So let me just rebuild the 3D. And then now I'm in the building. So let's just go and find this exterior view. And here I will import a bench, for example. So the way you use these seamless imports, they are always connected to a built-in mini browser. You go to File and Import and 3D Warehouse. That's the way you import these files, and you just use simple search terms like a bench or any more specific. And if you find something that you would like to use in your project, you just go there and select it. Check if it's still something that you like, click on download, select the latest comparable version to the current version of your software, and then you just download it. That's what we call seamless, because you can forget about going there and saving the file, forget where it is, search for that, import it, scale it. That's something that in this case you don't have to do. You just import that and you just place it on your drawing. I think let's just place one here like this. And then you can multiply, and there it is in the 2D as well. So and from this point on, this is loaded and saved into the local libraries of your computer. So if you go offline, you can already find this specific object in the object libraries, which is what we call the design center. And here you can find the objects and materials and many other things.
You said local libraries. Now we do have a built-in local library.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, ARCHLine.XP comes with a built-in local library. But the point here in ARCHLine is that we do not ship the software with large, gigantic libraries of current things, because simply the industry changes so fast that we have decided to open the software as much as possible, and just as what we show you now, make you possible to open a gate to the other software.
That's
like
right.
3D
so you are better off relying on contemporary and fresh data, what you get from code designers or you get from places such as the 3D Warehouse, as opposed to keep on using the data what we provide you with.
Yes.
We just can't, keep up with the changing trends, especially when it comes to interior design. I think that's something that almost no one can keep
well, you can name it. Interior design, architecture, it changes just too fast. So, so it's better to obtain the latest products from the manufacturer's website, and that's what you do.
Yes.
And actually, I think there is one another thing that I should talk about, and I did not mention, is the showroom, which works pretty similar to the 3D Warehouse. I'm just quickly showing that how you can find that. Showroom is is pretty similar to the 3D warehouse. You can find it here, File, Import, and its showroom there. It's a built-in mini browser, but the difference here, this is a built-in mini browser for objects, materials, and sanitary ware and things like that, tailored for ARCHLine. So these are not something that were created to a third-party software like 3D Warehouse, but this is something that if you go to the Pharaoh Ball library, you will find materials that will work perfectly with ARCHLine, or you go to somewhere else like the other libraries, you will find materials and for example.
So one thing what my colleague just told you that's very important to emphasize, that this is something that we maintain, and you get updates to this library quite often. We have manufacturers joining. I would say a couple of them a week. And we push these elements into the library, and that's part of your software package. That's not something that you have to manually purchase or download. It's there.
Yeah, and this is also free. So
that is also free. It goes with the software. Now, one thing what reminds me from this built-in showroom is that we talked about the seamless integration, and there's one thing what we showed you earlier in another session is how we connect to the BIM object library. Now that's something what I told you in the beginning. We are not going to look at it in detail, but in the description there's going to be a link to this, show you so you can see that. But this takes us a little bit closer to another topic what I want to touch upon briefly, basically BIM and other sources of data what you can use in the software.
Yeah, well, you know, here's the point that I wanted to mention, that when you import 3D, when you use those file formats that I had been talking about, the 3ds, the OBJ, the SKP, you will not import buildings, because everything that you import through that channel will be interpreted as an object, and you don't want a building to be an object, because then you cannot handle that.
That's right.
The point when you import an IFC file, for example, because that's one of the most important BIM file formats that ARCHLine supports, is the IFC file. If you import an IFC file, this will be much more than just simply models. It will be imported as walls and architectural items, not just simple objects.
And since everything is moving towards the BIM direction, I think that's an export format, or in this case an import format, you should be considering if you want to bring in 3D data, while at the same time you want to use the building data as well. There's just tons of difference, but then again, we showed you that in other show, so we are not going to deliberate and elaborate on this further. But here's another thing what I see here, the Revit import. Now tell us more about what we mean by that.
Now that's I think that's the other big BIM format that you can use. There are tons of drawings and drawing parts that you can find as in Revit files, in RFA files, or RVT files. So you can simply just import them and use them the way you want to use them.
And as it so happens, sorry to interrupt, we do have a show on that as well. So again, tons of materials what we already covered. We're not going to go into details as of now, but we have the reference materials for that one.
Yeah.
So regarding Revit import, that's something that you should be considering for your intention.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Another thing that I should mention is the way you handle two other things. I think I did not mention earlier that one way of how you can handle images.
Yes.
And another thing, that you can actually import Excel files into your drawing. Like for example, you have created an Excel file of anything, a calculation or a list of things. I have created a room list for this project in an Excel file. And then I can import it here using the import and Excel table. That's again a specific import because it comes with a setting dialog first. You select that file. It's again in the library I have prepared for this webinar, and it's here. So I have this room list file. You can either go with an Excel file, or you can go with an XLSX, the newest file format. Whichever you go with, you can just click on it, and then you can tell the software what part of that Excel file you would like to.
So you don't have to pull in the whole thing. You can specifically target for for certain areas.
Yes, so you just go here and select, I'm going with this first page of it, but as you can see there are all the other pages of this Excel table. So if I click OK, then I'm able to place it here. And
that's neat, that's
yes,
very good.
Yes, and an important thing here that if you right click on this table, this is actually a gate, an open gate to that original file. So if you right click here, you will be able to open the original Excel file as well. And sorry, it came up on the other screen, but it's here. So if you change it, and let's just name the project like it's Linz, and then I'm saving it. Then using this option here, the update Excel, you can actually update the changes. So you won't edit the content here because it's a drawing part. You won't change the items here. You will use the original Excel file to change that, and then you can easily update it, and you will have the full power of Excel to do whatever you wish.
That's very neat.
And now, so that's one thing, and the other thing, sorry to interrupt.
No, I was about to ask you about the images, because you said that that's something that we are... in the beginning we showed you how to import images and turn them into floor plans. But what happens if you have an image and you want to import it as a material?
Yes.
That's something that we have to discover. So we do have that facility. Show us how.
Yes, and in that case you just go to the material libraries, which is in Design Center, Home, Materials, and you will find all the libraries. You go into the library you would like to place your material into, and then well, actually this is what I have created earlier, so let's just remove that. I will import that now, show you how to create that. You go here into this little tiny button and say create new material. And then if you are online and you browse for files, you can click on the browser and say copy, and then you can say paste, and you will have the material. Or if it's saved onto your computer, which is the scenario now, you just go here and click on open. And then the software will ask you to name it some way. And this is the most important thing here. You should set up the pattern size properly. I mean, when I'm talking about pattern size, is this the original image size itself? So it's not from here to here or any specific part. It's the
image which is going to be repeated endless.
Yes. So if I tell the software this should be linked together, because when I change this value, I would like to change the other one, and I change it double time, and then I also change the appearance, how it will be reflective or bumpy or whatever. I just click OK, and from that point on, this is a material in my libraries, and I can apply it on the surfaces of this project and use a different pattern.
That's neat. Okay, this pretty much covers the most important import facilities we have. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have other options as well, but some of them we already talked about, but others are much bigger topics, and we are going to devote a different webinar to that.
We should,
Now, on to the user questions, because I think we have quite a few questions what we could answer at this point. Now, I'm reading up the comments as they are. So, good day, Iles and Zoltan. Hello.
Hi there.
While working, I noticed that working with Revit files is sometimes easier than working with CAD files. Is there a difference? And there's a follow-up question to that. Is the Revit file lighter than the DWG file?
Well, lighter, not necessarily. It really depends on the content, but the way you can handle the two different file types is the difference simply because of the content that they have. Now, you remember we mentioned that a Revit file is a BIM file, and the DWG file is a CAD file. The difference between the two, I don't know if I highlighted that, but now I will do, is that when you import a Revit file, you import not just the drawing, you import the building itself with all the information in it. And if you import the DWG file, it is likely only the 2D data.
And it's just lines, right?
And it's just lines.
There's no distinction that this line is actually a wall and that is actually a window or door. So these are just symbols, lines, arcs, you name it.
So yes, those two different file types are different in content and the way you handle them, simply because of this fact. I don't know if this answers the question, but I hope.
I think it does. Arthur is asking, this is where we can ask questions in the middle of the webinar. Yes, this is so feel free to add your questions. Now, Larry says, WAS by DWG is a great tool. It saved me hours on my last project. Glad to help. Orsha is asking how to import a building model as WAS and Windows, which means architectural elements.
How to import building?
How to import the building model as walls and windows as architectural elements.
Yeah, well, for that, just again, it's for those things you should use the BIM files. BIM is IFC or Revit when you import. So either way, if you can obtain from the other designer, if you are about to ask some drawing, you should go and ask an IFC file or a Revit file. This way you won't only get the drawing, but you will get walls, you will get doors, windows, real architectural items, not only documentation.
That's right. Yeah. And that's another follow-up question from Vanessa. Importing 3D files in a new drawing and save as manufacturer objects seems to keep the drawing lighter. Is that a good way?
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a good thing. If you import something into your project, sometimes these items are not just single items, but I think I will show you that. They are things, yeah, you can just clear me the screen so I can show you. It's here. You go into a new project. This is a good practice Wannes is mentioning. You open up a new project, you import the data into that project, decide what you would like to keep. So like I'm opening, I think I will just open the OBJ file, yes. And then I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's the OBJ, yeah, let's just go with this. Well, this is too simple to be able to explode it into pieces, but the point is here. You just place it, and then you can explode this item. If this would be like a larger sofa with pillows and things like that, you can go and find the manufacture, new object, edit component. The software will break it down into the components. You can erase parts, and then you can select the whole thing, like I have done this now. We have actually a video about that, just to quickly go through this. You just select this and then go manufacture new object and create new object. And this is how you create a new one. The reason I'm usually suggesting this to our users is that if you import something into a living project and it has hidden parts which are falling into walls or something that you cannot see, then you can easily fill up your project with, let's say, trash that you won't be able to see and won't be able to get rid of, and
But they're just making your project larger and larger.
Yes. So yes, thank you for mentioning that one. As it is the proper way of importing things and deciding what to do with them.
Here's another question. Is the content of this webinar available in courseware training format? Now, the point of these webinars, apart from obviously showcasing what our software can do, is also to spread awareness of what you can do in CAD, because some of you who switched to ARCHLine had no prior experience in CAD, and some of you are learning on the job. So for these webinars, one of the key ideas why we have these is to teach you how to turn this kind of projects into profitable and instant results, basically. What we want to do is to keep these webinars available on our YouTube channels, and that could be used for educational purposes. We have a whole playlist dedicated for these webinars. Yes. Now these are the questions what we had. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you very much for guiding us through this list of many different export formats. Again, import formats. Again, we have others as well. We are going to devote another section to that too. Thank you very much for joining in. See you next time.
See you. Bye.